On this anniversary of D-Day, I'm honored to introduce the film Operation Overlord, OSS and the Battle for France. This powerful film tells the story of Allied Special Forces, whose daring exploits changed the course of World War II and helped save the world from tyranny. Their courage and sacrifice deserve our eternal gratitude. Having had the privilege of serving as Secretary of Defense and Director of the Central Intelligence Agency, I know the men and women who serve today in the intelligence and special operations communities. They are our nation's first line of defense, and they've been inspired by the proud legacy presented in this film. I'm honored to support the OSS Society's efforts to build the National Museum of Intelligence and Special Operations in order to tell their story. The museum will honor Americans who have served at the tip of the spear since World War II. The spearhead points the way forward in the past, the present, and the future. I hope you'll enjoy this film.
June 5th, 1944, dawned raw and cold over the English Channel. Due to the foul weather, D-Day, the greatest invasion in the history of the world, was put off for another day. More than 150,000 American, British, Canadian, and Allied troops waited throughout England. Hitler still held sway over most of Europe. France, Belgium, the Low Countries, and Scandinavia remained under hostile Nazi occupation. More than 50,000 Nazi troops and multiple Panzer tank divisions awaited the invasion. The Germans had meticulously prepared the Normandy beaches for an Allied slaughter. But the Allies had been preparing for this day for a long time. Members of the French resistance, nicknamed the Maquis, were poised throughout France to rise up in revolt. They had been courageously harassing the Nazi occupiers for more than a year, and now awaited the Allied landing at Normandy to support their mass uprising. To assist the Maquis, the British Special Operations Executive, or SOE, and OSS recruited, trained, and equipped French-speaking commandos to fight a shadow war against the Nazis. They included Jedburghs, SOE and Special Air Services teams, larger OSS operational groups, and members of the Free French Forces, commanded by General Charles de Gaulle. The Jedburghs were composed of teams of 2 Allied officers and a wireless radio operator, a combination of French, British, and American soldiers. More than 80 Jedburgh teams, equipped with light arms and wireless radios, were parachuted in to help organize, arm, train, and lead tens of thousands of French resistance fighters against the Nazis. In the 6 months before the invasion, the Maquis, along with OSS commandos, sabotaged more than 100 factories and destroyed more than 1,000 locomotives, helping bring heavy industry to a halt. The OSS Field Photographic Branch, commanded by Hollywood director John Ford, photographed the coastline from low-flying B-25s. The OSS Research and Analysis Branch prepared topographic studies of the Normandy coast for the Army and Navy and analyzed German targets in France for the 8th Air Force. The Carpetbaggers, the air arm of the OSS, and the Royal Air Force delivered more than 10,000 tons of supplies to the French resistance, including light weapons, ammunition, explosive devices, wireless radio sets and crystals, medicines, shoes, clothing, and hard cash. To gather intelligence for D-Day, General Eisenhower initiated Sussex, a joint British-French-American operation. More than 100 French volunteers, trained by SOE and OSS, parachuted into France. Captain René Veuve of the Free French Forces jumped into Chartres. His OSS codename was Joyeuse, joyful. René transmitted information about enemy infrastructure, such as Paris's La Bourget Airport, an oil refinery, and an underground V-1 rocket factory. Operating independently, OSS landed veteran agent Virginia Hall from a British motor torpedo boat into Brittany. Equipped with a forged ID, she eluded the Gestapo, mapped drop zones, set up safe houses, and helped to arm and train 3 battalions of Maquis. OSS Commander Wild Bill Donovan said, "As long as we had the Sussex teams ahead of us, it was like we had a brightly lit path. But beyond it was like advancing into a dark tunnel." In the words of Winston Churchill, these pre-invasion teams of Allied irregulars and exiled French resistance fighters were encouraged to set Europe ablaze. In the darkness before dawn on June 6, 1944, the invasion finally commenced. Thousands of ships and landing craft crossing the channel in the largest amphibious assault in military history. Their targets were 5 beaches, stretching out for 50 miles along the coast of Normandy: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword. Facing these Allied soldiers and sailors was the Atlantic Wall, a long line of concrete bunkers, pillboxes, land mines, and steel obstacles constructed by the Nazis to keep the Allies out, to create a kill zone on the exposed beaches and drive the Allies back out to sea.
Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, and our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity. Lead them straight and true. Give strength to their arms, stoutness to their hearts, steadfastness in their faith. They will need thy blessings. Their road will be long and hard. For the enemy is strong. He may hurl back our forces. Success may not come with rushing speed, but we shall return again and again. And we know that by thy grace and by the righteousness of our cause, our sons will triumph.
Charles Hostler's OSS counterintelligence unit landed on Utah Beach and quickly took control of a network of enemy agents and French civilians. They sent misinformation to the Germans that convinced Hitler that Normandy was just a feint. A bigger invasion would soon land elsewhere. Through the Allies' efforts, whole divisions of Germany's military might were delayed or diverted. The 2nd SS Das Reich Panzer Division was bottled up for 3 weeks by Free French forces and Jedburgh teams ammonia and quinine, allowing time for the armored divisions of General Patton's Third Army to strike headlong across France toward Germany. U.S. Captain Paul Cyr and 2 French officers of Jedburgh Team George parachuted into Brittany to assist an SAS commando team. The Jeds filed this initial report. 4,000 partisans must receive 100 Brenns, 1,000 Stens, 1,000 battle dress. Situation hot. Will explode if arms not received. Team George succeeded in passing along German fortification plans for the Brittany coast. Sergeant Robert Kehoe, codenamed Passata, was the radio operator for Jedburgh Team Frederick, who jumped into Brittany. One of his first transmissions said, SAS attacked Monday and dispersed, guarding 3 of their wounded. Jeds, okay. Paris-Brest underground radio, cut. London replied, congratulations, Passata, on your promotion to First Sergeant. U.S. Lieutenant Robert Anstedt, a member of Jedburgh Team Hamish, jumped into Indre in central France. After organizing the local maquis, Team Hamish radioed HQ London. Railroad and telephone finished. Roads difficult. Impossible to stop Boche, but can slow down by ambush. For this, need mines and booby traps. Been playing games with Boche patrols. It's fun. U.S. Captain Bernie Knox, a member of Jedburgh Team Giles, was warned at his pre-invasion briefing to act like a gentleman and behave himself as a good guest of France once they parachuted into Brittany. Apparently, this warning fell on deaf ears. As Bernie later said about the American Jeds, I have never known such a bunch of troublemakers in my life. U.S. Major John Gildy parachuted with Jedburgh Team Ian into Vienne. They sabotaged the Paris-Bordeaux Railroad, trained thousands of maquis, and created a heavily defended bastion that was like a fortified city. But their luck ran out when their French radio operator Sergeant Bourgon's car was attacked by Nazis, and he and his driver were killed. Captain Defarge remarked, I never saw Gildy show any emotion, but when the sergeant was killed, I thought he'd never stop crying. U.S. Major Bill Colby parachuted into Lyon as a member of Jedburgh Team Bruce. Colby was nearly betrayed to the Gestapo, as his local resistance leader was Roger Bardet, a French traitor. Colby went on to lead Bruce on missions with the Maquis to shore up General Patton's vulnerable right flank as his tanks roared hell-bent for leather across France toward Paris. General Donovan said, the battle for France showed as never before the extent of the assistance that an oppressed people, given supplies and leadership, can render its allies in the course of its liberation. General Eisenhower said, in no previous war have resistance forces been so closely harnessed to the main military effort. The organized forces of resistance played a very considerable part in our final and complete victory.
With thy blessing, we shall prevail over the unholy forces of our enemy. Help us to conquer the apostles of greed and racial arrogances. Lead us to the saving of our country, and with our sister nations into a world unity that will spell a sure peace. A peace invulnerable to the schemings of unworthy men, and a peace that will let all men live in freedom, reaping the just rewards of their honest toil.